Hello everyone, this is JC May Rimarata, your pre-service teacher. For today, we will be talking about Lesson 9, Global Demography. When we say demography, it is the study of human populations, their size, composition, and distribution across space, and the process through which populations change. In rural communities, they often view multiple children and large kinship networks, since this will be a critical investment. Say for example, children can help or take uh, over the agricultural works of their parents. However, in urban communities, educated and professional families with two income desire only one or two children, since they are tied down or committed to their professions and their work, so neither has the time to devote having a kid or much more to parenting. So these differing versions of family life determine the economic and social policies that countries craft regarding their respective population. Urban population have grown, but not necessarily because families are having more children, but rather the combination of the natural outcome of significant migration to the cities of people seeking work in a more modern sector of work. So, international migration plays a part of it. The UN projects that over 2.2 million will move from the developing world to the first world countries. Countries welcome immigrants as they offset the debilitating effects of an aging population, but they are also perceived as threats to the job market because they compete against citizens for jobs and often have the edge because they are open to receiving lower wages. Now, the perils of overpopulation, according to British scholar Thomas Malthus, who warned in his 1798 an essay on the principles of population, that population will inevitably exhaust world food supply by the middle of 19th century. Malthus' prediction was off-base, but it was revised in the late 1960s when American biologist Paul Ehrlich and his wife Anne wrote The Population Bomb, which argued that overpopulation will bring about global environmental disasters that would in turn lead to food shortage and mass starvation. They proposed that countries like the US take the lead in the promotion of global population control in order to reduce the growth rate to zero. By limiting the population, vital resources could be used for economic progress and not be diverted and wasted to feeding mouths. So this argument became the basis for government population control program. Advocates of population control contend for a universal access to reproductive technologies such as condoms, pill, abortion, and vasectomy. Politics determine these birth control programs. Developed countries justify their support for population control in developing countries by depicting the latter as conservative societies. So these policy formulations lead to extreme policies like the forced sterilization of 20 million violators of the Chinese government's one-child policy. Vietnam and Mexico also conducted coercive mass sterilization. The use of population control to prevent economic crisis has its critics. So Betsy Hartman disagrees with the advocates of neo-Malthusian theory and accused governments of using population control as a substitute for social justice and much needed reforms such as land distribution, employment creation, provision of mass education, and healthcare and emancipation. Others point out that the population did grow fast in many countries in the 1960s, and this growth aided economic developments by spurring technological and institutional innovation and increasing the supply of human ingenuity. So, reproductive rights supporters argue that if population control and economic development were to reach their goals, women must have control over whether they will have children or not. By giving women this power, they will be able to pursue their vocations, be they economic, social, or political, and contribute to economic growth. Most countries implement reproductive health laws. In North America and Europe, 73% of governments allow abortion upon a mother's request. The Philippines, with a Catholic majority, now has a reproductive health law in place, but conservative politicians have enfeebled it through budget cuts and stalled its implementation by filing a case against the law in the Supreme Court. Now, the feminist perspective is feminists are against any form of population control because they are compulsory by nature, resorting to a carrot and stick approach that actually does not empower women. One of the goals of 1994 United Nations International Conference on Population and Development suggests recognition of these issues. Hence, globally, women and feminist arguments on reproductive rights and overpopulation are acknowledged, but the struggle to turn them into policy is still fought at the national level. So, this is the dilemma that women are still facing today. Population growth and food security. Today's global population has reached 7.4 billion and it is estimated to increase to 9.5 billion in 2050, then 11.2 billion by 2100. Demographers predict that the world population will stabilize by 2050 to 9 billion, although they warn that feeding this population can be an immense challenge. So the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, warns that in order for countries to mitigate the impact of population growth, food production must increase by 70%. According to FAO, they recommend that countries increase their investments in agriculture, craft, long-term policies aimed at fighting poverty, and invest in research and development. And UN body also suggests countries develop comprehensive social service program that includes food assistance, consistent delivery of health services, and education, especially for the poor. So these recommendations are worthy, but nation states shall need the political will to push through these sweeping changes in population growth and food security. This will take some time to happen given that good governance is also a goal that many nations, especially in the developing countries like the Philippines or in the developing world, have yet to attain. So that ends my discussion for today. Thank you for listening.